Well, the first thing to do is to get her into a dress. She's getting too big to be running around in man's goods. Look here.
The Beverly Hillbillies' fiery, no-nonsense granny was played by the hilarious Irene Ryan. But Ryan's actual life was nothing like her on-screen persona. She was an amazing performer with a deep background. But what happened when the performance ended? Ryan was so much more than Granny. Her career spanned vaudeville, radio, Broadway, and TV. Despite Ryan's marriage and subsequent financial success, she had difficulties associated with a property that haunted her. Crises struck at the exact moment she was about to go into a thrilling new chapter of her professional life. Her ascent to stardom, her last moments, and the impact she left behind are all intriguing and underappreciated aspects of Irene Ryan's biography. Born Irene Noble in El Paso, Texas, on October 17, 1902, Irene Ryan began her career in show business at an early age. It was clear from an early age that Irene was destined for stardom. Nevertheless, she did not begin her professional career until she was 11 years old, when she sang Pretty Baby at an amateur contest at San Francisco's Valencia Theater and won $3. Since she was technically too young to work under California's child labor regulations, she got a job with a stock business by lying about her age when she turned 14, extremely anxious to get into the field. Because she was uninterested in education, she dropped out of high school after 2 years and dove deeply into acting. She spent the following 4 years honing her acting chops in the stock theater before launching her career in the entertainment industry. Irene discovered her true calling performing musical comedy and variety shows around California. At that period, she crossed paths with Tim Ryan, yet another vaudeville artist. By the time they tied the wedding in 1922, they had already been an on-stage and off-stage duo. They were married for 20 years and worked together professionally for the same amount of time, which contributed to their enormous success in the entertainment industry. Irene and Tim Ryan started out in vaudeville, but they eventually made the transition to radio and had their own show, Tim and Irene. The team shot to fame after the hilarious Dumb Dora act, which featured a charming but clumsy woman, went viral. As they became more famous, they made appearances on classic shows from that era, such The Bob Hope Show and The Rudy Valley Show. While Irene was thriving as a radio comedian, she started to break through in the film industry. 11 comedic shorts with her and Tim were released as a collection. Will You Stop? Hamlet and Eggs, 1937, The Wacky Family, 1936, and others were notable works by this group. In 1937, their on-screen connection was a reflection of their real-life friendship. Though they were both successful in their careers, their marriage terminated in 1943. Though they did separate ways, their partnership persisted. They remained involved in each other's cinematic endeavors. During the height of World War II, comedian Bob Hope made it his mission to amuse American troops stationed overseas. Since they had worked together before on The Bob Hope Show, Irene was happy to offer her backing. Hope went on a world tour with the United Service Organizations, USO, performing for troops and visiting hospitals for veterans. Even after the war ended, her devotion shone through when she performed to cheer on the Allied forces during the Berlin airlift in 1948. The importance of their purpose was also commented on by Bob Hope, who understood the need of humor during difficult times. Trust me when I tell that the sound of laughing on the front lines is priceless, especially to the brave men who are enduring the terrible ordeals that go on there. Imagine those men expressing their gratitude to me. Consider what they're doing for you and me as they approach you to shake your hand and whisper, "Thanks." The thought of that makes your throat clench like Grant's tomb. Giving back to the troops and making a meaningful impact with her abilities was more than simply another performance for Irene. As the 1950s progressed, Irene Ryan steadily increased her star power by appearing in a number of television series. However, nothing could surpass the monumental breakthrough that was about to come her way in the 1960s during the production of the Beverly Hillbillies. The Clampett family's feisty, no-nonsense matriarch, Granny Daisy Moses, was the object of Ryan's affections. She was so qualified for the part that she nearly didn't get it. Paul Henning's casting agency was tasked with finding the perfect Granny for the play, and Ryan wasn't even considered. Irene was deeply disappointed when the agency expressed her doubts about her suitability. Ryan, determined not to be overlooked, took decisive action. She contacted Paul Henning and made an audacious plea on her behalf. "Paul, would you mind if I didn't bring my shawl and gray wig to make my case? Those 7 or 8 hour shootings would be too much for anybody older to handle," as pointed out by the El Paso Times. Her zeal and self-assurance earned her a second opportunity. However, in a subsequent interview with Emmy TV legends, Henning offered another interpretation of events. He reminisced about the time Ryan dropped by his office and asked her straight out whether she felt she could play hillbilly music flawlessly. She proceeded to tell a tale that proved she was the best candidate. "Are you for real?" She spoke. "My stock company and I had a theater performance in Arkansas. We questioned the management as to why he hadn't allowed the crowd in while we waited backstage for the curtain to rise. He threatened to remove seats from the theater if he did. Yeah, I'm familiar with hillbillies." For Henning, that was sufficient. Irene Ryan embodied Granny Moses with her hilarious sense of humor, boundless energy, and extensive expertise. When it came time for screen testing, Henning recalled that Ryan's audition had already decided the winner. As soon as Irene Ryan read B. Benadet's lines, she rushed over to tell me, "That's Granny." She was simply magnificent. Henning stated that Benadet was there to test out for the character of Granny. This was the turning point in Irene Ryan's career. She was cast as Granny Daisy Moses on the Beverly Hillbillies. The program became an instant classic after its 1962 debut. The show followed Buddy Ebsen's character, Jed Clampett, a humble farmer who became wealthy overnight after discovering oil on his property. Instead of enjoying life in his rural hometown, he uprooted his family and moved them to Beverly Hills, setting them up for a comical collision with the city's elite. Max Baer Jr. played the charming yet adorable Jethro Bodine. Donna Douglas portrayed the attractive and gentle Ellie Mae Clampett. And Irene Ryan played the stern matriarch who kept everyone in order. Ebsen was also a member of the group. The Beverly Hillbillies broke the record for the quickest climb to the top in television history within 3 weeks of its debut, a clear indication of how immediately captivated viewers were with the show. According to IMDb, it achieved what no other program at the time did. It surpassed the viewership numbers of Bob Hope's famous show. A few mysteries were concealed from the public by the creators behind the scenes so that the program could retain its enchantment. The Beverly Hillbillies has been a favorite for many years, and new viewers may enjoy it every night on repeats. Ryan continued to be cautious even after landing the post. Even though the program became a huge TV smash, she couldn't shake the feeling that she may be fired at any second. While speaking with the Star-Gazette in 1965, she did confess, "No matter the setting, I'm the first one to arrive on site. I have always been on time. To be honest, I still feel the same way I did when I was younger. That is, terrified that I may be fired. It was reasonable to be afraid." Ryan had been a hustler her whole career, doing vaudeville acts, radio adaptations, and stepping into cinema and television whenever the opportunity presented itself. She quickly discovered that in the uncertain world of show business, stability could never be guaranteed. She maintained her wits and preparedness, even when she was at the pinnacle of her celebrity, because she knew that anything may happen at any moment. When Irene Ryan initially played Granny in the Beverly Hillbillies, she was 59 years old. The fact that she appeared considerably older than her actual age in the film was one of the most shocking parts of her performance. Ryan skillfully portrayed an ancient grandmother in the 1962 series debut, despite the fact that she was just 59 years old at the time. Given that she was Jed Clampett's mother-in-law, and that Jed was not exactly a young man, Granny, who frequently reflected on the Civil War and events from the 19th century, was expected to be in her 90s. Even in her latter years, Granny maintained her reputation as a fierce old lady. Ryan was still under 70 when the series ended in 1971, which is decades younger than Granny's suggested age. The makeup artistry section underwent dramatic daily makeovers to compensate for the generational divide. Ryan wore heavy makeup to make her seem older on set every day. The team used a combination of wrinkle shading and contouring techniques to give her a more older appearance than she actually had by adding depth and highlighting her wrinkles. She lent even more credence to the idea with her distinctive gray wig and her dowdy, vintage attire. Back in the day, viewers of the Beverly Hillbillies couldn't tell that Ryan wasn't really an old woman because to the show's effective use of CGI. Shows like The Golden Girls owe a debt of gratitude to such procedures, which eventually became the norm for cinema and television makeup. The changeover was smooth on the older, lower-resolution TVs from the 60s and 70s. After some time had passed and high-definition cameras had been developed, some of the cosmetic gimmicks became more noticeable. Still, nobody ever doubts Ryan's age because to her convincing acting. Over the course of the show's 204 episodes, Irene Ryan portrayed Granny. Irene was one of several honorees over the 9 seasons of the series, which ended in 1971 following a string of successful nominations and wins. Nominated for Outstanding Continued Performance by an Actress in a Series at the Emmys in 1963 and 1964, she was nominated twice. For an extended period of time, Ryan was excited to play Granny. Retirement was the one word that eluded Irene Ryan. She had no plans to stop acting and wanted to keep playing the part forever. She expressed her goals explicitly in a conversation with the Sydney Morning Herald. "Give up the ghost? My boots are my death wish, honey." Giving up was never an option for Ryan. Despite her wildest dreams coming true on the Beverly Hillbillies, she learned that her admirers could only identify her when she talked. "My voice tells everyone I'm lying," she said. "Until I say anything, no one pays any attention to me as I stroll down the street." Ryan was in town for a one-off performance at the South Sydney Junior Leagues Club when we spoke. Even while she didn't reveal how her act worked, she did imply that her bag had some of Granny's recognizable possessions. In a live performance, the persona captivated the audience. She added that she performed the character in Las Vegas and that it was a huge hit, highlighting the character's great appeal. Ryan was a very different person when she wasn't filming, despite her strong ties to Granny. She had a pleasant personality, a career that lasted over 50 years, and she performed in almost every genre of show business. Burlesque was the one form of performance she had never done before. "I won't reveal my age, but I've been involved in the entertainment industry for more than 50 years. The only genre I've avoided is burlesque. I was never one for that," she said while laughing. However, she was determined to keep going at a rapid pace. "I want to keep playing Grandma till I'm exhausted." When individuals say they're going to retire, I imagine they mean it literally. Broadway was Ryan's next big break after the Beverly Hillbillies. She didn't want to remain in Hollywood and instead went back to what she loved: performing live on stage. She spoke to the El Paso Times about her enthusiasm, saying, Although nothing can ever replace an actor's time on stage, television is here to stay and is arguably the most influential form of entertainment in human history. Playing the part of Berta, the spirited grandma in Bob Fosse's musical Pippin, was a fresh challenge for Ryan on Broadway. A Tony Award nomination for Best Featured Actress in a Musical came her way in 1973, a year in which she was still captivating audiences despite being in her 70s. She had already received 2 Emmy nods for her portrayal as Granny before this. Every night, she brought the house down with her rendition of No Time at All, which became an immediate smash. Her propensity to be the center of attention was lauded by the New York Times, who wrote, "Those who have watched Pippin know that she only spent about 10 minutes on stage before the show ended." After she exited the stage, John Rubinstein remained on stage, frozen in place until her applause subsided. Ryan may have been little in stature at 70, but she was full of life and would frequently remain backstage with the crew after her performances ended. She managed Broadway's hectic pace with the ease of a half-century old. Thanks to her years of astute investing and meticulous planning, Ryan had ensured a good existence for herself financially. Upon her death, her net worth was $1 million. She persisted in acting to the very end, even though she had a stroke while on stage. She was returned to Los Angeles by plane and died there thereafter. Glioblastoma and atherosclerotic heart disease were the official reasons given for her death. Perhaps more than anything else, acting was Irene Ryan's passion. Even in her last days, she continued to give her all to her acting, channeling the tenacity and will that had made Granny of the Beverly Hillbillies an iconic figure. Ryan bequeathed her whole wealth to the Irene Ryan Foundation, which she set up to help young people pursue acting as a career path. She was so selfless that she made sure her wealth would go on benefiting people long after she died. The press of Atlantic City reports that Ryan, who did not have any close relatives to whom she left anything, bequeathed her whole fortune, worth over $1,000, to a scholarship organization. This left a legacy of theater scholarship opportunities for students, ensuring that artists of all stripes will have financial assistance in the years to come. As she neared the end of her life, Ryan was making her Broadway debut as Berta, a regally energetic medieval grandmother, in the musical Pippin. She had made her acting debut when she was 70 years old. The fact that she was nominated for a Tony for her performance shows how talented she is. However, she was taken to Los Angeles' St. John's Hospital after collapsing on stage during a concert on March 10, 1973. She had a stroke and died on April 26. Anyone who knew her, whether on set, in the audience, or behind the scenes, would agree with Buddy Ebsen's assessment that she was a joy to work with in an interview. Inside Irene Ryan's deserted house, Granny Moses's legacy may have crumbled to dust, but Ryan's true legacy endures. There was a selfless soul committed to giving back behind the hilarious antics, biting one-liners and outstanding performances. Her actual residence, in contrast to the ostentatious Beverly Hills estate seen on television, was a little piece of land that had fallen into ruin over the years. According to urban exploration testimonies and reports, the house is mostly undisturbed, with her personal possessions, career artifacts, and furnishings all over the place. On the dusty shelves, you may find framed portraits, old newspaper articles, and other mementos that show us her life when she wasn't being photographed. Her legacy will go on long after her home has been abandoned. Irene Ryan was more than simply Hollywood's Granny. She was a beacon of hope and direction for countless others, and her legacy lives on in the joy she offered to viewers and the doors she opened for aspiring performers. Like, subscribe, and enable alerts for more stuff like this. If you appreciated this in-depth look into Irene Ryan's and Daisy Granny Moses's lives, get ready for more.